Hi, my name is Lee. Welcome to the fourth video in this series on building better, more resilient bots for your automation projects. In this video, we're going to discuss ways to make your bots more maintainable, and we'll cover using the Credential Vault. So let's get started. Now, there will be times when your bots need to be maintained, and it may not always be you who is doing the job. So having maintainable bot logic is very important, and one of the easiest things you can do to make it more readable is to add comments into your code. Now, you will recall down here I needed to, at a later date, come back here and add some error trapping logic in here. So what I've done is added a comment here to illustrate that, and you can see that these are much more visible when I jump across to the list view here in Automation Anywhere. You can see these come up in green, and you can make them even more obvious with capitals as per that example. Scrolling down further here, you can see I've made a note here which illustrated why I made a particular choice in terms of automation options here. So there's another great reason for why you might need to put comments in your code to explain that this is why we had to resort, in this case down here, to using keystroke automation rather than object-based automation for a particular set of steps. Now, you can see these comments get a little bit lost in the bot logic here, so one other approach that I like, which kind of serves as both a comment but more importantly as a way of grouping sections of your code, is to use the step command. And a great use case for that might be to bring together all of the steps that we're actually using within our bot logic here to log into the Invoicely platform. So you will see here that we're opening up the browser. So what I could do is drag across my step command here and give some notes in here. So this is where you can kind of replicate that idea of adding comments in, because quite a lot of text can be added here. But one thing that I would suggest when you're building or breaking your code apart into these steps like this, try and line it up with the other documentation that you would have around your bot logic. For instance, if I have this particular example here showing that this was the broad high-level steps we planned to build our bot around, well, what I would try to do is set up those step commands to match the steps in our documentation here, so that if someone's referring to this, they can more easily relate these concepts back to our bot logic. So I can even take this label here, make sure that ties back into my step command here, and put in some comments like that. This is going to give things a lot more structure, and therefore I can now drag these actions here which relate to the process of logging in. Let's see, all the way down to, in fact, that's all the steps there that would be required to log into the platform. Additionally, it lets me navigate through my bot logic a lot more easily, because now I can collapse that and then move quickly down to other sections within the code here. So there's a couple of great utilities using the comment to flag why choices have been made, what was done, things that are yet to be done, and also using the step command to break things down into structure to make it a lot more readable, and it also gives you the opportunity to then put in comments at the step level as well. Now, another great way to make your bot logic more maintainable is to parameterize things where possible. You'll notice here in this command where I'm opening the browser, I have the URL of the particular Invoicely company I was going to log into. One thing I can do with that is set it up as a global value. Let's take a look at how I would do that. So if I come across to this other tab here where I'm logged in as administrator, you can see under Manage, you can set global values, and I can paste in that URL here, define it as a particular name. And there's two types of global values: those that are fixed and cannot be changed, which is what this would be because there's no reason for it to change at any point within the bot logic, and those that can be changed in the context of the bot logic running. Once I've entered that in there, I can click on Save, and then if I come back to my bot logic here, we can now replace this particular hard-coded URL with a variable selected from the list of global values, which would be this particular one there. Now, the other benefit of using global variables like this is that they're specific to the control room. So if you're using multiple control rooms in a dev test prod pattern, you can have a value there that is set for each of your dev, test, and prod URLs, which is probably going to point to different systems. And as you migrate your bot across here, that single name will remain constant, but the underlying value that's been recorded on the control room will point to the relevant environment that that bot logic should be run against. Now, another important way of parameterizing your code is to use the Credential Vault. The Credential Vault is a very secure part of the platform where you can store credentials for third-party applications that are leveraged within bot logic. You access it under the Manage menu here, and the first thing you need to do is set up some lockers. Lockers actually define who is able to do what with those particular credentials. For example, the participants defined for a locker are the users who are able to leverage those credentials when building bot logic, and the consumers of the credentials are able to leverage those credentials at runtime within bot logic. Once you have your locker set up, you can come in here and start to add credentials. So let's actually start to set up something for Invoicely. I assign it. In this case, I'm going to choose the Finance Credential Vault, and I then put in my attribute names here. So we will need a username here to log in. You can put in a description, obviously. For user-provided credentials, each bot runner account would need to provide their own login there, and that enables them to use their own details at runtime. But for standard, what we can do is just set a one-off value here, and this is going to be this value here. And the next thing I would do is set up my password attribute, and I can leverage that within the bot logic. So let's see how that's done. Here we are within the bot code, and this is the first step where I'm entering the username into the email address field here. As you can see, we had that hard-coded, so rather than use that, we're going to select from the Credential Vault. I pick my locker, which will be finance, the particular set of credentials, and then the particular attribute there. And I would go on and do that same process with the password step. Now, several benefits here. As I mentioned before, with the global variables, this enables you to have different credentials for different platforms, and the bot can smoothly move through a dev, test, and production control room environment. But it also creates a separation of duties. So those people who are responsible for setting up users in the CRM, the ERP, whatever it may be, can do that and provision those in the credential vaults, and then bot builders and bot runners can leverage those without actually having to having access to what those credentials are. So it's a great security division of roles there as well. The final thing I'd like to touch upon in this video is the concept of a bot register. Now, this is a capability that is sort of handled within the Automation Anywhere platform in Private Bot Store. I don't believe I've seen anything in other platforms to my knowledge. It's very easy to set up something like this in something like Confluence, for example, and essentially it's just a list of all of the bots that you have in your production system, the parent process that they typically belong to, a description, location, whatever data that you want to record in there. But the key thing is recording which systems are actually involved here, because at some point someone's going to come along in IT and say, hey, we need to upgrade the SAP system, for example. What impact is that going to have on all of the automation that you've built? And you'll need to go out there and test those bots, potentially make some changes for the new user interface or new APIs, whatever it may be. Being able to have this sort of register where you can instantly filter a column for references to a particular platform provides you a link directly to those bots where you can start to do your testing and make any changes if required. And that's about everything we have time for at the moment. If you would like to be notified when the next video comes out, please subscribe to my channel, and otherwise, thank you for watching.